before taking you into the AWS, before taking you into the Azure, it is very important to review some basics concepts of IT. It is possible that most of you are from the non-IT background. So before getting started, let me tell you what is IT. As IT, or information technology, is actually all about using computers and devices. So to why we use these computer or electronic devices to manage the information. So this involves creating and processing and storing and securing all the data. So we use these devices to secure the data, to store the data, to secure the data, and to make the data useful. So this is the IT in which we use computer electronic devices to store the data, to process the data, and to make that data important or informational. So IT makes we use businesses use IT to make their tasks run smoothly and to reduce their mistakes. All the works that can be done with IT can also be done without IT. But why we use IT? Because it reduces mistake and it increases our efficiency. For example, we use databases. Why we use databases? To save the record. We can also save the record in papers, in the books, but it is not effective and it can have mistakes. But when we use IT, we use electronic devices to make them more efficient. So there are four main several components of IT. First, we have a hardware, we have a software, we have a networking, we have a data. Since cloud is all about the infrastructure, so let's have the fundamentals of what is traditional IT infrastructure. Traditional IT infrastructure means having physical data center, and that has a company builds and manage on its own. So in the cloud, as you know, we take the infrastructure from Microsoft. If we are using Azure, if we are using AWS, we take the infrastructure, we rent the infrastructure from the Amazon. But in the traditional IT infrastructure, company build and manage their own IT infrastructure. So these are the basics concept of IT infrastructure. In IT infrastructure, we have the on premises data center. So you will hear this word very often if you are working in the cloud. On premises, what is on premises? So these are the special buildings or room where company keep all the IT equipment. If, for example, let's say server, if the company is placing and using the server on its own building, on its own room, then we will call it an on premises data center or on premises server, whatever. So this is the on premises. And what is the server? A server is like nothing but a computer. But what are the server? These are the powerful computers in which we store the data, we process the data, and we run the application. So servers are nothing but the powerful computers. So we also have storage. Storage are like the hardware devices like SSD and like HHDs, floppy disk. We do not have floppy disk anymore, but floppy disk is also a type of storage device. We have a flash drive. So these all kind of flash these are kinds of storage. And then we have the networking. I explained you, this is the setup that allow devices, hardware devices in the data center to communicate and connect with each other. Without networking, the IT infrastructure is useless, because we cannot communicate with each other. We communicate with the internet. How? Using the networking. So networking is a very fundamental and core concept of IT infrastructure. The first GB, the first 1 GB hard drive announced by IBM in 1980 weighed over 500 pounds. So the cost of only 1 GB hard drive in 1980 was 40,000 US dollars. And nowadays we can have micro SD cards that cost a few dollars, and we can store terabytes of data. So you can see in just few decades how the IT infrastructure has grown. And since that IT infrastructure is grown, our data is increasing, and our demand uh, for the tools like Gen AI, cloud is increasing as well. Now let's move to the next. Okay, we just discussed the traditional IT infrastructure. We know we will work on the cloud infrastructure, but why we move to the cloud? We can also do the same work on the IT infrastructure. Okay, we can use the traditional IT infrastructure. We are already using the traditional IT infrastructure. We are already using the on premises, but why we feel the need to move to the cloud? Because the traditional IT infrastructure has some limitation. So here are some there are multiple limitation, but here we will discuss some core limitation. First, high cost. So it costs a lot of money to buy and maintain the hardware, software. So the facility needs, in the data center we need hardwares, in data center we need softwares. So company have to spend a lot of money upfrontly. Upfront means in the advance to set up everything. So it can cost us a lot in advance, in upfront. So it is a big drawback of traditional IT infrastructure. It usually cost us high, and it also has scalability issues. If a company suddenly need more computing power, or if companies suddenly need more storage, yeah, it gets difficult and very slow to add the resources. On other hand, if they need less, so they stuck with unused equipment. So this is a very big problem in the traditional IT infrastructure. We cannot scale quickly. If we want to increase our resources, we have to go to the market, we have to buy the resources. But once our requirement gets decrease, all these resources remain unuseful. So this is the problem. And then we have the maintenance issue. So the data center require constant attention to keep everything running smoothly. So this include regular updates, security check, with take time, and it take lots of time and money. So it is maintenance is also a very big problem, because in cloud computing most of things are managed by AWS, managed by Microsoft. But in this traditional IT infrastructure, we have to manage everything on our own. And even, do you know, that mouse trap is also very common in IT infrastructure. Even in the IT software houses in Pakistan, many mouse rats cut the wires of the network system. So it is also a very big problem. So we have to keep maintaining, we have to keep some, since the temperature is very high in in countries like Pakistan. So we also have to keep the air conditioner on. So these are the very limitations in the IT infrastructure. That's why most of the companies here are moving to the cloud. You rarely find any company in Pakistan that is working on their traditional IT infrastructure. They are mostly working on the cloud because of the high electricity, high temperature, weather, and all these issue like so this is the drawback. And then disaster recovery. It is also that, for example, protecting data from disasters like fires, like floods, power outage. So power outage are very common here. So we also have to deal with this kind of complexities. So to keep electricity backup using electricity generator or anything can be very expensive. So companies need to have backups. Of course they need backups, but to keep their infrastructure safe from the disasters cost is very can be very complex. So do you know, some large data center consume as much electricity as a small town? It is affect some of the data center consume more electricity than a whole town. So this is another drawback of IT infrastructure. So this is main slide. So what is cloud? So this is, as we discussed before in the, so as we have already discussed the traditional IT infrastructure, but now we will discuss cloud. As we discussed in the past, the companies have to host, maintain their own hardware in their data centers. So this required whole departments to manage, which was very expensive and limited what they could do. I have already told you all the disadvantages of IT infrastructure. But as the internet use grow, the need to more computing power and definitely more storage is also increased. So for many companies, maintaining all this hardware become too costly. So this led to the creation of cloud computing. So what is cloud computing? Before we have IT first, we have on premises, but now we have a cloud computing. So cloud computing actually provide IT resources over the internet on pay as you go basis. This is the main feature of cloud, that it is pay as you go. You will only pay for the services that you use. If you rent a computer on the cloud for 1 hour, you will only pay for that 1 hour. And if you rent a storage for 2 hours, or you will only pay for the 2 hours. So this is the main benefit of the cloud. You can rent any resource over the internet on the pay as you go basis. You do not need to manage your own hardware anymore. You do not need to worry about any disaster that may happen, because because companies like AWS, Microsoft, Azure, Google Cloud own and maintains data center and offer their service to users online, okay, over the internet. So to understand the difference between on-premises and cloud computing, imagine your developers need a test of new feature. So your developer want to test a new feature. With cloud computing, they can quickly set up the testing environment without needing to invest in hardware devices. For example, you are the developer, you created your app, but now you want to test on let's say is on Windows machine, you want to test it on Mac machine, you want to test it on Linux machine. If you are working on IT, on traditional IT infrastructure, you have to go to the market, you have to buy the multiple computers, you have to buy the Apple computer, Windows computer. But in the cloud computing, you can rent these resources within just few clicks, and you can test your application and you can deploy your application within just few clicks, and it will cost you pay on the pay as you go basis. Here we will have discussed the benefits of cloud computing, but before telling you and benefits, we have already discussed the advantages of the cloud computing. So here are some benefits. Like, first of all, pay as you go. I told you before, pay only for what you use. No need to buy expensive hardwares advance, just rent the resource and use it. Then cost saving, definitely. Cloud computing saves money with lower prices. Yeah, because you do not have to buy any expensive resource in advance, so it will save your cost. Plus, big giants companies like AWS and Azure gives many discounts, like they have partial. If you pay them upfront, they will give you advance. If you buy sport instances, they will give you advance, they will give you the discount. So we will discuss these paying models in upcoming lecture. But you have to keep in mind that these companies keep giving us discounts in many ways. So, and the third benefit, it is a very big benefit, that no more guessing capacity. Means adjust your capacity as needed. You don't have to pay for unused resources. You won't run out of capacity, you will never run out of capacity. If you feel any need, rent them. If you do not feel any need, you can stop renting them. So this is advantage of cloud computing, no more guessing capacity. And then increase speed and agility. What is this? uh, Agility means, agile means shaping, changing the shape. So with the cloud computing, IT resources quickly you can get your IT resources quickly, so it reduces the time from weeks to minutes, which make your organization more agile. For example, if your company is working on let's say uh, MS database, but you want to switch your company into the MySQL, which works on the Linux. Instead of buying the new computers in the Linux, you can rent out the MySQL database with just few clicks. So it can make the agility in your company. So you can focus on businesses. It is the advantage of cloud computing. You will spend less on data center and you will focus more on the project. So it will serve your customers better. And then global reach. You can deploy your application worldwide in minutes, so it gives your customer better performance. And no matter where they are, you can deploy your application within just few minutes all around the world. For example, you are settled in USA, but your client is settled in Europe. So instead of going there and setting your infrastructure in Europe, you can use AWS global infrastructure to deploy your VM or your virtual machine in the Europe region. So we will discuss the global infrastructure in upcoming slides. So this is one of the biggest benefit of cloud computing.